Hello and welcome to the Wellbeing services in South Glasgow. My name is Ros and I'm going to talk about communication. I'll firstly talk about different communication styles and skills and then go on to talk about some techniques such as paraphrasing and reflections and non-verbal and verbal communication, conversational skills and assertiveness techniques. I'll also tell you about a few other helpful techniques such as I statements. So, communication skills are something that we use in everyday situations and in a variety of circumstances. It is important to consider the way that we communicate as it can impact on how others receive it or how we come across. It is a skill that isn't easy for everyone and can be more difficult in certain situations. We communicate with both close friends and family and with strangers or colleagues. This can either be face-to-face or on the telephone or on the internet or social media. Anxiety and low mood can get in the way of good communication due to not socialising as often or avoiding social situations. Therefore, you can lose confidence due to avoiding these situations and not using communication skills. Our values and beliefs about ourselves, others or the world can also impact on our style of communication. Good communication skills can help show others that you respect them, but also helps you to clearly put across your own needs, and it can also benefit the quality of relationships. It can also increase the chances of what you want to get out of a situation and prevent resentment building up. It can increase self-esteem and help you hear and understand others more clearly. Difficulties can arise in communication when people don't listen to each other and therefore don't understand each other. This is why it is important for us all to consider how we communicate and whether this could be improved upon. Considering different communication styles, you may have heard different types of communication, such as passive or aggressive. It is important to be aware of your own style and thinking about how you want to be. An assertive communication style is preferable when used in a respectful way. Your upbringing or your experiences or emotions can all contribute to your communication style. It can be helpful to reflect and consider your own communication style. Firstly, assertive style is expressing your view or opinion in a respectful way. A passive style is when you do things you think others will approve of or agree with others' views and not give your own opinions. An aggressive style is trying to control or dominate others. And finally, a passive-aggressive style is a more indirect aggressive behaviour, such as sulking or being sarcastic. An assertiveness communication style is the ability to be able to express thoughts, emotions, beliefs and needs both clearly and honestly, whilst respecting both yourself and the rights of others. We have both expressive and receptive skills. So expressive skills are when you identify your own thoughts, feelings or wishes and express them in the first person to another person in a clear and specific manner. Receptive skills are when the person listening uses non-verbal listening skills such as eye contact, head nodding, empathising, or paraphrasing back. I will now go on to talk about some of the techniques that are helpful in good communication. Firstly, paraphrasing or reflections are a way of showing that you are listening and checking that you are understanding the other person correctly. Listen to what the other person is saying and rephrase it in a tentative and questioning way, such as, "I think you are saying that," or checking what they had meant. It is important to respect yourself and express both your thoughts and feelings. Being prepared for what you want to say can also be helpful. Non-verbal characteristics include receptive listening, showing that you are listening, such as through good eye contact, but without staring, having an open body stance, open hand movements, and having facial expressions which respond or match appropriately to what you are hearing, such as smiling, or if appropriate, looking more serious. And finally, also having a relaxed face and jaw can be helpful. Verbal characteristics include your tone of voice, so sounding firm and relaxed, and talking at a steady and even pace, and having a warm middle range tone can all be helpful. Sounding sincere and clear is also important. I statements are something I will also come on to, another characteristic of verbal communication. And then seeking opinion of others and being open to solutions are also other characteristics of communication. Moving on to conversational skills. This is something that many people don't feel confident about, especially with people that they aren't familiar with. Small talk is something that can involve commenting on the weather or the news or complimenting another person, and may feel strange at first if you're not used to this, but it can help initiate and lead to further conversation. As with other things, it takes practice. It's also important to remember that conversation is two-way and involves both listening and taking your turn to speak. Assertive communication has many parts to it. Firstly, clearly stating what your need is or your want is. Using eye contact, as said before, not staring, but using frequent eye contact. Actively listen to others without interrupting them. And be aware of your volume, so speaking loud enough to be heard, but not too loud or too quiet. Also remember to use a steady, calm tone of voice and use confident but not intimidating body language. There are also 4 other skills of communication that can be helpful, which I will now go on to talk about. These include the give skill, I statements, the Dear Man technique, which is an acronym, and the wise mind. Firstly, the give skill is a skill that can be used in a variety of situations and helps maintain healthy relationships, such as needing to stand up for yourself. The first one of the give skill is to be gentle, avoiding making threats or attacks, and try to be gentle in your approach, which people respond better to and accept more easily when people say no to requests. The next one is act interested in the other person as it feels better to others when you look and sound interested, and try not to interrupt or talk over them. The V is for validate. Acknowledge the other person's feelings and what they say, such as, I can see this is very difficult for you. Therefore, commenting on their feelings. And finally, from the give skill, use an easy manner. This involves using humour if appropriate and try to be light-hearted and smile, which is also then friendly. The next skill I'm going to tell you about is what we call I statements. This is a helpful way of speaking to other people, but preventing them feeling like you are blaming them. For example, in a situation where one friend keeps being late when meeting the other one, they could say to their friend, I feel upset or frustrated when you are late to meet me, rather than saying something like, you make me cross when you are late, which sounds more blaming. Using I statements can also help you to take responsibility for your own feelings. It also comes across as less argumentative, and the other person is more likely to understand your perspective and respond in a helpful way. The next technique is called wise mind. There are 3 types of minds we can all have in different situations. These are an emotional mind, a reasonable mind, and then a wise mind, which is the one that we aim to have. This is a way of thinking about how you perceive or understand other people. Firstly, an emotional mind is when you think that what someone says reflects onto you and how you are feeling, and this can result in becoming overwhelmed and confused. Secondly, a reasonable mind is when you consider the facts and approach a situation intellectually, but don't pay attention to emotions. A wise mind is the balance between an emotional mind and a reasonable mind, and focuses on trying to get things done, able to acknowledge feelings, but also using a rational mind. Therefore, being a balance between the two. The final of the 4 techniques is the DIAMAN acronym, which can be a helpful technique in communicating with others and maintaining healthy, respectful relationships. The D stands for describe the current situation and to stick to the facts. The E stands for express your feelings, such as I feel something when I'm left waiting, using the I statements as described before. The R stands for reinforce or reward people. For example, saying thank you or giving a suggestion of something positive that might happen if you are suggesting something to somebody else or asking for something. M is for mindful, and this is to help keep your focus on what it is that you want and try to avoid distractions or repeating yourself or getting into an argument. Next, appear confident and use good eye contact. And you could practice this with somebody close to you or just practice on your own and try to speak loudly, clearly and confidently, as mentioned earlier. The final one, N, for negotiate. This is when you ask for other people's input or solutions and try to come to a compromise. It is also important to think about your thinking style, as your thinking style can impact on your behaviour, as well as your emotions affecting your behaviour. For example, if you think, if someone says no to me, it's because they don't like me. Or if you think, I will become upset, or I will upset other people or burden them with my problems if I tell them what's going on. These types of thoughts will impact on your behaviour in social interactions and in relationships. If you wish to read further about unhelpful thoughts, you can check our other information on thoughts. It can also help you to become more assertive and to seek help or act more helpfully in your communication. So it's important to remember the impact of thoughts and behaviours and emotions on each other. You could consider a behavioural experiment to try to help you to improve your communication. And there are 5 steps to setting up a behaviour experiment. The first one is to identify what unhelpful behaviour you have. The second one is to identify a more realistic prediction for a situation you may be avoiding or struggle communicating in. The next step would then be to set up an experiment of what it is that you're going to try to do, and then finally to carry it out and then evaluate after this. An example could be when someone, as I said before, is always late for their friend. They could then suggest to their friend, if this is becoming a problem, or ask them, for example, can you let me know if you're unable to make it, as I plan my day around us meeting up. And she could also use mindfulness to help her stay calm whilst talking to her friend about the situation, therefore trying to do something about it rather than just expressing in frustration or anger when the time comes. Therefore also using problem-solving skills as well. Finally, mindfulness can be helpful and can help you to stay calm and avoid getting into conflict in your communication with others by paying attention to what you've got going on inside of you as well as outside of you in a non-judgmental way, as many areas can get in the way of good communication, including self-esteem, anxiety, mood or temper. Please check our other resources online and online video courses on our website, should these be relevant to you. Good luck and goodbye.